What the fuck's wrong, Susie?
What the fuck, Susie?
What's your problem?
Silly old
I try to give you love. You don't want it.
You're not letting me.
A typical female. Don't know what she wants.
Bye, Susie.
She keeps trying to drink my drink.
She wants tea.
She's got a whole bowl full of water. No, it's my water.
Oh. She
She's
just wants yours. Cats are weird. Yeah. I've got a shout out.
Great.
And my shout out is to our first subscriber.
Yeah.
Ah. And that is from my partner, Claire. Thanks, Claire.
Thank you, Claire.
She is now a subscriber. She is subscribed to £10 a month. And she
honestly, such a babe.
She is going to be supportive. And I said, yes, you are. Thank you. After I sent her the link, but.
And said, please do this.
I was like, whoops, I accidentally sent that link to you. Thank you, baby.
Morning.
So
it's your story today. And
it is.
When I joined the Zoom meeting and it come up with the title, I was like, oh, what could it be?
What is that? Well, I'll give you a clue. It's a murder story.
Oh, I gathered that from the
murders.
Title. Right.
Story. And they happened in the moonlight.
Hence the name, I guess.
Well, I'll tell you the name. It's called The Moonlight Murders.
Dun, dun, dun.
Without further ado, I shall take a sip. And if you're sitting comfortably, I shall begin. So the Moonlight Murders is a case that occurred in Texarkana. And this is a small city located on the border of Texas and Arkansas.
Oh, how it's such a simple name, isn't it?
Yeah.
Texarkana.
Texarkana. It sounds cool though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Texarkana.
So simply named.
And it happened in Texarkana in spring of 1946. And it was dubbed the Moonlight Murders by the press. And the killer was a shadowy figure that they called the Phantom. But he had nothing to do with any opera, as far as I'm aware. I don't know. Maybe he does. It's a notorious case that's inspired several movies, which I didn't have time to watch, but I am going to watch tonight. And there's a famous film based on this case, and it's called The Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Oh.
And I probably wouldn't have watched that. I wouldn't have chosen it by the title because I would have figured that it was something kind of, like 30 Days of Night.
Yes.
And that kind, I would have,
yeah.
It's giving me that kind of vibe.
Zombie type.
Yeah, which is my absolute biggest fear. And, it could happen. A slight trigger warning with this. It contains some parts of sexual violence. Without further ado, we'll get into the first attack. And the first attack happened on February 22nd, 1946, when an unidentified man approached Jimmy Hollis, who was 25, and Mary Jean LeRae, who was aged 19, and they were parked. They were parking and necking on a secluded road known as Lover's Lane. They'd been out to watch a movie and they decided that they didn't want to go home. They were feeling a little bit
randy, I think is the word you're looking for.
I was trying to avoid saying the word horny, but too late. So they were parking down Lover's Lane and a man who was wearing a white mask. And when I say white mask, we're not talking like Jason Voorhees. We're talking, it looked like a sort of pillowcase that had been pulled over his face, and it had 2 holes for his eyes. No nose hole, as far as I'm aware. And he ordered them to get out the car at gunpoint. And he told Hollis, Jimmy, to, excuse my language, take off your fucking pants. He said it just like that. Jimmy complied with the request because his girlfriend was absolutely terrified. And she was pleading with him. She was saying, do what he's, do what he says, do what he says. This attacker then whacks Jimmy in the head with his gun, and it made a crack so loud that Mary actually thought he'd been shot, but the loud crack was actually his skull fracturing. The Phantom then told Mary to run.
I'm sorry for interrupting there, but can you imagine how loud that would have been inside your own head?
I know.
If she had heard that and thought it was a gunshot, how loud that would have been in your own.
I know, it must have
oh gosh,
like just shattered, like snap of his bone.
Yeah.
So the cat hair in your tea?
Yeah, cat hair in the tea, yeah.
Oh, that's still making me feel a bit gippy from last week. You know, when you said about the people that get cravings to eat things, and there's that woman that craves eating cat hair.
Yep.
Oh, rank. I wonder if she gets hairballs.
Maybe.
If you're out there and you're listening, do you hock up a hairball? I'm making myself feel sick. Sorry, on a Tuesday morning. Blech. So, right. So, yeah, it cracked him in the head. Loud crack noise, and that was his skull fracturing. So, and Mary thought he'd been shot. So the Phantom then told Mary to run, and she did. She running, and he started to chase her, and obviously, like, she was absolutely terrified. He was chasing her down this road, and when he caught up to her, he asked her, "Why did you run?" And she said, "Because you told me to."
Perhaps you may have mentioned.
Yeah, because you told me to. He called her a liar and smacked her in the head with a gun, but by all accounts, not as hard as he'd hit Jimmy. Then, unfortunately, he sexually assaulted her. And there's also reports that he sexually assaulted her with his gun as well. He was then, the Phantom was then startled by the headlights of a car that was approaching. And he hit her several times in the face and then disappeared into the night. She managed to get herself up and stumbled to a nearby house because the car that had been approaching didn't like see them or anything like that. It was just driving past. She stumbled to a nearby house and called the Rozzers. That's the police for anyone who isn't from this area. You don't know what the Rozzers is?
No, I'm from this area. I don't know what the Rozzers are.
How can you know Rozzers? Like,
what's that short for?
The fuzz.
Yeah, but why Rozza?
I don't know why it's
I
called.
know what the fuzz is, and I know that the police are, but I've never
the
heard
old
of the
Bill.
Rozza. Yeah.
I'm not going to keep going because we've probably got like I don't want to encroach onto like derogatory terms. So the police were called by Mary. Meanwhile, Jimmy, who had been cracked in the head,
pants down,
had got to his feet, pulled his pants up, and hobbled to the main road where he flagged down a passing car. I mean, not the nicest of situations. Obviously, they'd seen and could see that he'd been like attacked. You know, he was bleeding profusely from his head. But they left him there and said, "We'll go and call the Rozzers. We'll go and call the old Bill." So they left him there and they drove to a funeral home, which was like the nearest place, and used the phone to call the police. The police found Jimmy still stumbling along that same piece of road and they took him to hospital. Miraculously, both Jimmy and Mary survived the attack. But after this, the town was left in like absolute shock. when they were questioned by the police, they both said that the attacker was about 6 foot tall. But Mary said that the Phantom was a 6 foot tall African American male in his early 20s. Jimmy said that the Phantom was a 6 foot tall male, but he was white and easily in his early 30s.
Hard to tell with a pillowcase on the face.
It is. It is. It was difficult because this caused a bit of controversy. I don't know. It caused some trouble anyway, because the police thought that Jimmy and Mary were possibly covering for the attacker because they knew who it was.
Right.
But it kind of led to them not really taking it too seriously, because they sort of thought, well, these variations in your description are very different. You know,
Yeah.
one saying early 20s, one saying early 30s, one saying that they were black, one saying that they were white. I mean, I would have thought that Jimmy probably didn't get as good of a look at the attacker as maybe Mary did, because obviously she was like horribly assaulted by him. And, you know, Jimmy hadn't really, as far as I can tell, hadn't really seen much of the attacker before he was like, had his skull fractured. But I don't know. So that was the first attack. The next attack is actually the first double murder. And this was the second attack, first double murder, and it happened on March 24th, 1946, when a motorist saw a car, again down Lovers Lane, with two people asleep in the car. The couple were Richard Griffin, who was 29, and Polly Ann Moore, who was 17. And they weren't sleeping. They were both dead. Griffin had been shot 3 times in the head whilst in the car and was found slumped in the front of the car over the steering wheel. And Polly Ann Moore was found laid out on the back seat, although the evidence suggested that she had been killed on a blood-soaked patch of earth next to the car and then placed in the car after she'd been killed. There was a lot of congealed blood found on the running board of the car, which is like the step bit as you get out the car, and so much so that it flowed through the bottom of the car door. A .32 cartridge casing was also found at the scene, possibly from a pistol that had been wrapped in a blanket. And both Griffin and Moore had been shot in the back of the head, but they were both fully clothed. There was suggestion that Polly had also been sexually assaulted, but it was never confirmed. So we don't know. And annoyingly and strangely, both bodies were laid to rest before a pathologist could examine them, which was completely against police protocol for that time. And there's no answers as to why that happened.
That's so strange. That's probably, I was just going to say, how could they not know whether she was sexually assaulted if they've done their like pathology? The pathologist would have been able to determine that. But I guess if that never happened, then
no, they were very quickly cleaned and processed and embalmed and everything before there'd been any kind of examination. So and even the police department said that was weird, but and against protocol. The police department were under immense pressure to solve the case, and soon a man called Ewell Sweeney was arrested in connection with the murders. However, he was eventually released due to lack of evidence. In the years since the murders, there's been several suspects and theories, but the case remains unsolved to this day.
oh,
the end. No, it's not. So this started. Well, I've put in my notes. It started a bit of a panic, but well, I suppose it was. I suppose it was a panic. But the obviously the authorities were really concerned because they'd never known anything.
Did they connect the two and assume it was a serial?
I think.
Well, a serial killer, but
I think serial
attacker.
Because there was sort of, obviously it's never that obvious at the time, is it? We look back at cases and we say, well, this happened, this happened, this happened. Why didn't they piece it all together? But if you consider it from their point of view, they've also got like this happened and then 20 other things happened and then this happened and then 30 other things happened and then this happened. So I do look at these things and think, why didn't they realize that there was a pattern there? But it's not until you can see that pattern, there's no pattern, is there? Like but they were concerned that obviously there'd been a sort of brutal attack on a couple, and they thought this couple have got no enemies or anything that we know of, or friends and family know of, and you know, we've spoken to them and they can't think of anyone that would want to hurt them. And then shortly after that, 2 people are found dead, you know, in the same sort of location and that. So I think they were thinking we need to get some serious muscle on board and see if we can sort out what's happening before it escalates. So they started to get worried. They got the Texas Rangers on board. How cool is that? And they got Manuel Lone Wolf Gonzalez.
Oh, stop it.
Cool. He's
great
like,
nickname.
I know, he's proper, like, he looks really cool and handsome, and like he was known for his like charisma and rugged good looks, and he was a bit famous, like amongst the Texas Rangers and Texarkana, and he was considered a bit of a maverick, like, and apparently he used to like rough people up a little bit before he used to make,
of course he did,
arrests and that, you know, and yeah, he'd get in an old fisticuffs with people and, you know, slam them to the ground and you're under arrest, you're nicked, as they would say over here.
Yeah.
We're a lot less exciting, aren't we?
I know. We don't have Phil Lone Ranger Watkins
No.
in our police district.
Did you say Lone Ranger? I feel
Lone
like
Ranger.
that's me. I'm a Lone Ranger.
Lone Wolf. Oh, Phil over there.
Yeah, I know. Philip.
Your nick, mate.
PC Philip. That's not a slant on any police constable Phillips out there. But yeah, he was known as a bit of a maverick, and he led this team of Rangers to try and bring the case to a conclusion and stop the attacks and hopefully like stop any more murders. Our lone wolf apparently loved speaking to the media. I suppose if you're sort of, you know, good looking and
feel like he loved himself a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like that too. Shortly after the murders, he made a very bold statement saying, "I will not leave until I have solved it." Spoiler alert, he didn't. He didn't solve it, and you know, he did leave. They also started offering rewards for like any info and that, which is fine, and I get it, but it did then bring on a load of false leads and false allegations and things like that. So it kind of made it a bit harder.
Backfired a little bit.
Yeah. So now we'll move on to the second double murder. And this was around 1:30 a.m. on a Sunday, and it was April 14th.
So is that's kind of about a month later?
Yeah, they were all really close. Yeah. So, and it's Paul Martin, who was only 17, and he was picking up Betty Jo Booker, aged 15.
Just little babies.
Yeah, so 17 and 15, bless them. Betty was part of a band and she played the saxophone, which is cool. Yeah, so she'd been to this musical performance at a veterans club on West 4th and Oak Street. And Betty's mum actually became worried and panicky when she didn't stop by the house to drop off her saxophone before she was going to spend the evening with Paul. So her mum alerted the police and said, look, something's not right. She would have come home after the performance. She would have come home with her saxophone and then they would have gone out. There's no way she would have gone out with it. And the police then started searching for the couple. Unfortunately, Martin's body was found at around 6:30 a.m. lying on his left side by the northern edge of North Park Road. Blood was found on either side of the road by a fence. And unfortunately, Paul had been shot 4 times through the nose, through the ribs from behind, in the right hand, and through the back of his neck.
It was like trying to get away.
Yeah, possibly. Unfortunately, Betty's body was also found by a search party at about 11:30 a.m. and it was almost 2 miles from Paul's body, and her body was laying behind a tree, lying on her back, fully clothed, and she was posed with her right hand in the pocket of her buttoned up overcoat. And Betty had been shot twice, once through the chest and once in the face. The weapon that was used was thought to be the same as the first, like, double murder, with a .32 automatic Colt pistol. Martin's car was found 3 miles from Betty's body. So
it's a bit of a radius.
Yeah, so it was literally like the car, and then 1.5 miles was Paul's body, and then about another almost 2 miles was Betty's body. Yeah. So her body was actually about pretty much 3 miles from the car. So I'm wondering if it was the same as this first attack, where he's said to them both, like, run.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, he just likes
enjoying the chase.
Yeah, he likes the chase. Yeah. But yeah, his car was parked outside Spring Lake Park with the keys still in it. So I'm guessing, I don't know, maybe they stopped off to park for a bit first before taking Betty's saxophone home or something, and that's when it happened. William Hardy Presley, his name, he was called Bill. He was the sheriff of Bowie County and the first lawman on the scene in the first 3 attacks. And we've got our lone wolf, said that the examinations of the bodies indicated that they had both put up a terrific struggle, which
that's sad.
It's good, but it's sad, isn't it?
Yeah, I
think
that's kind of went on for a while.
Yeah, it's like that desperation of, at some point you knew that they would have just, like, given up hope.
Yeah.
But so Paul Martin's friend, Tom Albritton, said that he did not believe an argument had happened between the victims and that Paul really didn't have any enemies. He couldn't understand why anyone would want to attack them, or certainly not kill them. And Betty's saxophone was never found. They thought that possibly the Phantom had taken it to see if he could sell it. But
a little keepsake.
Yeah. The police were doing everything they could. They set up sting operations with younger rangers, and they even posed with, like, teenage relatives, like younger children of theirs that they could actually take with them.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, I know. Risky,
that's a risky game.
Yeah. No mobile phones.
We're just going to try and catch a serial killer. You in? Yeah, of course.
What's that? Never mind. Just get in the car. And they did it, obviously, to try and draw out the Phantom and catch him, hopefully before the act rather than in the act. But it didn't work, which also made me ponder as I perplexed over it. Do you think that there's a possibility that the Phantom could have been connected to the police force?
Well, I was thinking
a little bit weird.
I'd like to hear the rest of the story, and then I will make a more informed decision.
Okay, but you're open to the suggestion?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. So everyone, by this point, everyone was like, right, stuff this. I'm going to go to the shop and buy a gun. So all the shops sold out of guns, sold out of ammo, everything. And again, the reward caused a lot of issues. The reward had gone up to $1,500. Now you sort of think, I mean, that's not much, is it? But I suppose in the 1940s, that was a lot of money.
Would have been a lot. Like 25,000.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, because actually in the last story, that was actually in the 60s, The guy said he was paid about $1,500, and then by today's standards, that was 25,000. So,
so $1,500, started getting a lot of false leads, wasting police time, blah blah blah. All the young lovers in the area were like, sod this, we're staying at home. So they weren't heading out. Luckily, they weren't heading out to these lovers' lane.
Netflix and chill instead. It's not a movie and lovers' lane. No, thank you.
I know that I still don't understand that whole Netflix and chill thing, because I just don't get it.
If I put a film on, I'm asleep then. Well, I feel like I've got a button on my back if I lay down.
Boom.
That power down button.
Then we move on to the 5th murder. On Friday, May 3rd, 1946, sometime before 9 p.m, Virgil, that's so sweet, isn't it? What a sweet name. Virgil Starks. I think that's a really cool name, Virgil Starks.
Now he's a lone wolf.
Well, he's not, because he's married. So
I see.
I don't know. Virgil Starks, age 37, and his wife Katie, who was 36, were at home minding their own business, and they lived in my dream house, 500-acre farm. How cool is that? Off Highway 67 East, almost 10 miles northeast of Texarkana. So again, not a couple in Lover's Lane necking. They were at home, married couple at home on a 500-acre farm,
and older than the rest as well.
Yeah, and older, yeah, not bothering anyone. Oh, this is sad, but Virgil was sitting in an armchair reading his newspaper when he was shot twice in the back of the head from a closed double window.
Oh, goodness.
I know. Hearing the sound.
How scary is that?
I know, just
sitting indoors reading your newspaper.
All the
doors locked.
I would hope that he just didn't know anything about it.
He wouldn't, yeah.
It just bang, and he was out. Hearing the sound of broken glass, Katie came in from another room. And this is the bit that I think's the most sad. She saw Virgil stand up.
Oh.
And then slump back into his chair. And she realised then that he was dead. But it's weird, isn't it? Because when you get like these massive brain, like being shot in the head or whacked really hard in the head, it seems to like instigate almost like this sort of muscle memory.
Yeah.
Thing. And then it sort of shuts down. But I thought that was really sad. She saw him stand up and she could see that he was bleeding from the back of his head. And then he slumped back in his chair, and then she realised that he was dead.
How confused would you be?
I know. What just happened? Knowing me, I'd do something stupid like run outside to see what had happened. But
it don't matter. You're not safe anywhere, whether you're inside or out.
Exactly. Run wherever the hell I want. Well, she ran to the wall crank telephone and called the police. It rang twice before she was shot twice in the face from the same window that had shot Virgil. She obviously fell over, but then kind of regained her footing and tried to run and get a gun from another room. But there was an issue in the fact that she'd just been shot twice in the face and she couldn't see anything.
All inconvenience.
Yeah. Well, her eyes were okay, but she was she was blinded by the amount of blood that was pissing out of her face. She heard the killer at the back of the house, so she ran to the front door and she ran barefoot across the street to her sister and brother-in-law's house, but no one was home.
Oh God.
I know. So she ran to a neighbour's house and literally just sort of blurted out and said, Virgil's dead. And then she collapsed. The neighbour shot this is cool, shot a rifle into the air to summon another neighbour who was called Elmer.
They've been out back going, right, we need a warning signal.
Yeah.
If you hear one gunshot, come running.
Yeah. So he blew his rifle into the air. Elmer heard it, knew what that was about, and he ran and got his car. And it just seems so weird, doesn't it? Can you imagine?
It's so American, though.
I know, it's so cool. But I mean, I alerted my neighbour yesterday to the fact that the ice cream man was on his way round.
Did you fire your gun in the air?
No, I waved a strawberry plant. I waved a strawberry plant. Oh,
ice cream man.
You know, the ice cream man's just been passed. Yeah, it's a lot less rock and roll around here. Strawberry plants, ice cream vans, no rifles and running barefoot screaming. And
Oh no, I prefer it. I prefer that the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm sure Katie would have done as well. Elmer knew to go and get his car, so that's what the signal was. So Elmer heard the gunshot and was like, right,
Get the car.
to the truck. And he jumped in his car, and together, the neighbour and Elmer, they took Katie to the hospital, and that hospital is now the Miller County Health Unit. Katie was questioned in the operating room by Miller County Sheriff W.E. Davis, who became the head of the investigation of the Starks murder case. 4 days later, Davis talked with Katie Starks again, and she discounted the circulating rumour that Virgil had heard a car outside their home several nights in a row and was scared that he was going to be killed. She was like, no.
Didn't happen.
Nope, that is not true. Despite her injuries, after several surgeries, Katie Starks made a full recovery, and she was able to tell the police that the shots had come from outside the house when Virgil was sitting reading his paper. When police searched everywhere, they found a black and red flashlight that nobody could identify. Katie was like, that's not ours. Elmer was like, it's not mine.
And then fired his gun and alerted the rest of the neighbours.
Yeah, I think that's how he told the police. He was like, did signals with his rifle out the door, and the police went,
it's not Elmer's.
Not Elmer's. He just said, yeah. So that was kind of where that investigation stopped. They didn't find anything other than this black and red torch.
So why did they connect that to the Phantom? Because it's very different. Apart from being shot, it's very different. MO. It is not the same.
There wasn't any attacks like this going on in Texarkana. It wasn't like there was attacks and murders and things all over the place. It was a very small area that all this was happening. So I think
they just assumed
they
it
sort
must
of
have been the same person.
Yeah, this doesn't happen. But realizing that the attacks took place every 3 weeks, the sheriff decided to set a trap for the Phantom and placed these undercover officers, and he put mannequins in cars down Lover's Lane. But again, nothing happened. And the Phantom never struck again.
Oh.
I know. Over 400 people were questioned in the case, and about the same number of false leads were checked as well. 3 people that were found with blood on their clothes had been taken into custody, and all 3 were cleared of any suspicion. But the police had 2 people of interest in particular. One was an 18-year-old H.B. Tennyson, who committed suicide in 1948, and he left a suicide note claiming responsibility for the Martin, Booker and the Starks murders.
Oh.
Tennyson had been in the same school band as Booker, but they weren't friends. However, a friend of Tennyson's came forward and said that it couldn't be true that he was the Phantom, because he'd been playing cards at home at the time of the Booker murder. So he was like, there's no way that could have happened. But
what a strange thing to do, though,
I don't know
to
if
leave
that's strong enough. Yeah, I don't know if, I think maybe he probably did do it. And the fact that he committed suicide, I mean, a lot of people tend to do that have got extreme guilt, don't they? They can't live with it. Or not so much guilt, but
I suppose that's why, like, serial killers, they want to be caught, don't they? That's what they always say, is that they do these things and they want to be caught and they want to be stopped.
Yeah.
So it could be that he wanted to be stopped, and that was his way of doing it.
Yeah.
He was like, the police clearly haven't got an idea.
Yeah. The second suspect was a well-known car thief called Ewell Sweeney. And he was
you said he was already arrested.
He was arrested,
yeah.
He was aged 29, and the police found that every night there was an attack, a car had also been stolen and then left abandoned.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's why they sort of thought, is it a coincidence? Sweeney's wife had been seen driving a stolen car, and the pair were arrested. And she claimed that her husband was the phantom. But during questioning, her story was changing so much that there was just no solid evidence. And because of that, she was quickly deemed an unreliable witness. Sweeney was eventually jailed for his habitual car thefts, and he died in jail almost 50 years later in 1994.
So when was he jailed? Does it say?
No, it doesn't. No.
Be interested to see if he was jailed in like 46, 47 and they all stopped.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. I'll have a look and see if I can find out. The residents of Texarkana, like I said before, were all buying guns, guard dogs, souping up their home security. Curfews were set. Doors were locked for the first time in this previously peaceful, quiet town. To this day, the Phantom, who brutally killed 5 people and injured several others and terrorized thousands, was never found. And just as he had done before, he disappeared into the shadows. But my questions are, does he still live in that town? And does he still live amongst all those people that he terrorized in 1946, 1947?
My guess is that prob's not, because most serial killers, they can't stop, can they? So it's very unlikely that he went from killing every 3 weeks, like this compulsion to kill, this need to kill every 3 weeks, to just stopping.
But how do you know he just stopped?
Well, in that
maybe he got better. Maybe he got better at concealing it, or maybe he was thinking this is too close to home and started moving further afield. Or
yeah, it could be that he moved town and done it elsewhere, but I think that I don't think he would have got better at it, because people would have still been dying and they would have still been like, why are these people dying?
Yeah, I mean, there's every chance the first couple got, I guess, a good enough look at him. He must have been demasked at some point, because they said he looked, I think Jimmy said he looked early 30s, but then she said he looked early 20s and that. So, but
one said African American, one said white. So.
Yeah. But I mean, if you go by Mary's statement, and she said that he looked in his early 20s, potentially because she got a better look at him, maybe, I don't know. But if you met in the middle and you said he was 25, yeah, I don't know, maybe, I mean, killers do sometimes sort of go to ground, don't they, for like sometimes 10 years. They can sort of remain in the shadows for whatever reason. Could be due to ill health, it could be that they meet someone and they're sort of occupied something else, they could go away for work or anything like that, and then, or maybe it was someone that relocated or something. Or maybe it was someone in the police. Maybe it was someone in the police and they thought, oh, they're getting really close to catching me, or they're setting up so many stings. I don't want to get caught. So I'm just going to stop and I'll travel further afield and kill people and bury them in the woods or something. And maybe they've never been found. I mean, there's billions upon billions of missing people in the world.
Yeah. I mean, my sort of experience with any form of serial killer is that they generally don't just stop. So he would either have had to have been caught, died, or moved from town to town to town, and people never connected them all together, because why would they if they're moving from town to town? But
if they are all done by the Phantom, then he did change his MO, didn't he?
that's
Because
exactly it. That's what I was just going to say. He changed.
Maybe he got maybe he changed his MO and went after the couple in their own home and thought, Jesus Christ, I nearly got caught with that one. That was not
But
a good idea.
he
And
also
changed it again.
He also was nearly caught on the first one with the headlights, wasn't he?
Yeah. But maybe that's why he changed it.
His MO was he always used a gun.
Uh-huh.
So whether it was a young couple or and it was always a couple as well,
Always
wasn't
couple,
it?
yeah.
So that was his MO, is that it was always a couple and that it was always a gun.
And it was always
Just
at
that
night.
his location changed and things like that. But yeah, I think that
maybe he's just ever changing. Maybe he just sort of tried something and thought, well, that didn't go as planned. Because I mean, the first one didn't, did it? Because he didn't actually kill them. He just
and that's
brutally
why
attacked them and then thought, oh shit,
things
I'm
like
going to
that.
have to kill him.
Yeah, that's why they changed their MO, isn't it? Is that they're generally the first one is never a kill. It's always like an attack, and then they go, oh, then they kind of step it up, don't they?
Yeah.
So, and the same as when he tells them to run, it's he likes that chaser. Maybe he was just thinking, oh, it's getting a bit too easy, just kill them in their car, or I'll try someone else.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he had. I think he had in his mind that he was quite clearly out of, but in his mind, I think he had this vision of what he wanted it to be, like this fantasy of, you know, I want them to be scared, I want to chase them, I want to sexually assault the woman, I need to, you know. So he kind of started out with the first one and that didn't work because he didn't end up killing them, or maybe he was nervous because it was his first time and he couldn't actually bring himself to shoot him in the head, so he just thought, I'll whack him round the head and really as hard as I can and take him out of it so that I can, you know, assault the female. And then obviously he got really startled by the headlights of a car and legged it. The next one, he shoots both of them, and it's kind of quite sort of overkill as well. Like he shot the guy like 3 or 4 times, like in the back of the head. So it's like he wanted to make absolutely sure that he was going to kill them. And then possibly sexually assaulted the female and then put her back in the car so that, you know, maybe people going past would, as they did, assume that they were just sort of asleep in the car, or maybe just not even notice. But I mean, if she's laying outside the car, people are going to see it.
Yeah, there's also
it does seem to be changing to me. It does seem to be not escalating, but tweaks. He seems to be sort of tweaking it every now and again. And it could be that his father or his uncle, whatever, were in the police force. And he thought, you know, I'm going to talk to him about what's happening. And maybe that's why, maybe his dad was a police officer or something and was talking about, oh, this case, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we're going to start setting up traps. And, you know, and he thought, oh, God. And then, I don't know, maybe he got sent away to school, or maybe he joined the army, and I don't know.
Who knows? There's also the thing of what I was saying about that they got this need and this sort of like compulsion to kill is that there's a reason that he's targeting couples, because his objective is to sexually assault and like kill the females and things. But why not just get a female by themselves? There's a reason that he's targeting couples, so there's a reason behind his behavior, and that's why I feel like he wouldn't just stop. I don't, although his murder's changed, I do feel like his MO is the same. His MO is that he always targets couples, he always shoots them, and it's always done at night. But I feel like he would have either had to die or be caught, like go to prison for a different thing for it to have stopped. I don't feel like he would have just stopped. I think that
no, I agree. I agree with that. I think there's potential that he may have not stopped and
just moved.
Yeah, just done it somewhere else, not been caught. I do think that considering he wasn't done, he wasn't finished, and there was all, you know, when there was these sting operations being set up, he then changed from approaching people in their cars on Lover's Lane to go shooting someone through their own lounge window. And I think he must have known that. He must have known that he wasn't going to get anywhere, because he attacked 3 lots of people in cars, 3 couples in cars. And then they started setting up these sting operations with, you know, mannequins in cars, police officers in cars, and they had people,
nieces and nephews,
children. Yeah. So I don't know. I think I've got this kind of picture in my mind of like a sort of young Jeffrey Dahmer type person whose parents are doing their best to try and keep him on the straight and narrow, and he's just got this sort of sick obsession to the, you know, fantasy that he wants to carry out. And I think he either got information unknowingly from the police, or he was in the police, or someone was covering for him, something like that. I think there's that possibility. And potentially if there was a family member like a father or uncle or something that did know that he was doing these things, there's every chance that he may have had him shipped off somewhere else, bit like they did with Jeffrey Dahmer.
They also did that with Ing, didn't they? His dad, when he was getting caught for burglary and robbery or whatever else, they shipped him off.
Don't want you over here. Get to England, because they're all weird there.
You'll fit right in.
You'll fit right in.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a pattern there. Maybe we've just solved it, Sarah. I think we probably have.
Yeah. If we haven't, and you have also got some ideas on potentially who the Phantom could have been, then please let us know.
They don't call me Kate Lone Guinea Pig. All good for nothing. I'm not quite a wolf. It's more like a chubby guinea pig. Like a furry jelly bean. I love jelly beans and guinea pigs.
If you have enjoyed listening to our episodes, make sure you rate us and leave us a review on whatever platform you are listening.
We absolutely love hearing from you guys. So you can also help support our show by donating to our Buy Me a Coffee link. We will make sure that you get a massive shout out and a big thank you in our next week's episode.
You can also follow us on social media at Perplexed Podcasts. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and if you want to see more videos and blooper reels, subscribe to our TikTok and YouTube channels.
You can also email us your stories at perplexedpodcasts@gmail.com.
And you can find all the relevant links in the episode descriptions. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.